Right. Hello, sir.
Hi,
Welcome to the Futuristic Parenting Decoded podcast with Code Vidya.
thank you very much.
It's really an honor to have you here because I've read so much about you and I'm still reading a lot about you. So it's really great to have you on this podcast.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're very busy, sir, so I'll just get right into it. Your bio is as fascinating as your career. And from being a founder to an investor, from a trustee to being a philanthropist, and from being a teacher to mentor, could you please tell us a little bit about your journey, where you started, and what you're doing right now?
Definitely. So I started my journey back in 1995 as a semiconductor design engineer in a company called as Arcus Technologies, which is
Okay.
pretty much the seed for most of the semiconductor companies in India. I'm very
Oh,
proud to be a part of that team.
okay.
And I had amazing mentors throughout my 25 years of experience. Worked in companies like GPS, Intel, Synopsys, MediaTek, and at present I'm back in Synopsys. So
Oh.
that's my semiconductor journey. But I think late 2000, I came back from Intel US and joined Synopsys India. I think that was the start of my journey into education. So I was always
Mm-hmm.
interested in teaching. So took a
Mm-hmm.
part-time teaching assignment in MS Ramayo School of Advanced Studies, or which we call it as MSRSAS. Today it's become a
Mm-hmm.
university. So I
Yeah.
started my parallel education activities while working for Synopsys. Synopsys
Mm-hmm.
was gracious enough to give me permission to actually, get into teaching, and had an amazing journey in the last 20 years. I've been a part of engineering colleges, management colleges, degree colleges. Today, I'm in the advisory board of and board of studies members in different colleges. Mount Carmel College, India Academy, BMS Engineering, Dayanand, and ISBR are my primary schools and colleges I work with today. And it gave me a lot of exposure to edtech space because I've been
Mm-hmm.
working with different stakeholders. I've worked with students, I've worked with startup founders, I've worked with educational department, government departments, and also the society and trustees. So it gave me an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to partner with some of the brilliant minds, both as a
Mm-hmm.
co-founder role as an investor role. So I've been active because of that journey I've had.
Mm-hmm.
Specific to K-12 school, we have a school called Orinco Academy on Sarjapur Road. So it is
Right.
one of the progressive schools in Bangalore. And also
Mm-hmm.
through our own not-for-profit foundation called Bedaku Trust, we have
Mm-hmm.
two more schools, one in Madvalli, which is around 100 kilometers from Bangalore, and one in
Mm-hmm.
Hebal. We just started recently. This is just above my house in Bangalore,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh.
primarily target is to impart 21st century skills for underprivileged schools. Of course, we
Mm-hmm.
don't charge the students. We
Mm-hmm.
take care of their entire skilling, as well as all the other expenses around lunch, breakfast, and we also
Mm-hmm.
help them with books, stationaries, and other support what we can offer to these
Mm-hmm.
students. So that's been my journey so far, and it's just started. You feel that it's been a long journey, but I feel it's just started. So I think
I love it, sir. I read this quote when you said, "You put me on a beach and I cannot sit there for 3 minutes and I'll be immediately doing some work." So I
yeah,
love that about you. So you've been an active mentor with startups as well, and many organizations helping individuals and startups. How do you feel the scenario has changed in the world regards to technology from the time you started, say, back in '95 and now?
definitely. So, I still remember why 95.
Mm-hmm.
94, when I was doing my engineering days, I was a
Mm-hmm.
part of this, the project teams which we have, right, in the final year project. And we had a very interesting project which we had to deliver to the college. And
Mm-hmm.
I told the batchmates that my only role in the project would be to type the report, the final project report. And I still remember I typed the entire report in we didn't even have Microsoft Word. We used a
Yeah, yeah.
DOS based uh, typing platform to actually type the
Okay.
entire document. I mean, that is how we started the journey, and look at what's happening today, right? I think if I look at my career, technology has completely helped us be more productive and inclusive.
Uh-huh.
We are able to connect with people, collaborate, and execute projects much more efficiently than what we used to do earlier. It's truly a flat, connected world and offers a great opportunity for everyone who are willing to work
Mm-hmm.
hard in the respective focus area. It doesn't matter which focus area you are in. As long as you're willing to upskill yourself, as long as you're working hard, I think there is a wonderful opportunity for all of us right now. So specifically, if you talk about startups, a lot has changed, right? Technology used to be an enabler earlier, but today, technology has completely democratized the approach for all founders, right? What used to be accessible to few is accessible to everyone today. So the more intelligent one who rides the wave early wins. So the challenge is, how do you ensure that you're nimble and you have the right set of people with the right skills to win the game? I think that's what differentiate between the two startups today. And technology has found its place in every part of business. Earlier technology was only part of a solution which was offering to the customer, but today if you really look at technology, whether it's supply chain, whether it's operations, whether it's sales, marketing, human resources, finance, customer relation, customer engagements, everything, technology is an integral part of it. So you no longer can say I am a technology company, I'm a non-technology company. I don't think that demarcation exists today. Every
Yeah.
company today is a technology company. Now the challenge
Mm.
is, how do you use technology across these different functions of your business? And no founder today can come out and say I don't use technology. I don't think that's possible at all right now. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of this technology, right? It's gone in and made it simple for everyone out there.
I when we talk about edtech startups, I know you mentor them and you give them a direction to move in, just like how you mentioned about startups and founders. Why have you taken such an immense interest in education? You told us that you were a faculty member, but then there must be something that would have pulled towards this interest with your foundation as well, with Bellecourt Trust as well. So something that what was that one thing?
See, as a student, I always love to teach. I've been a teacher throughout my life. I think. I mean, in my college days also, the I used to teach students not just from electronics. I'm from electronics background, but I used to teach students in mechanical background, IP engineering, computer science. At
Wow.
that time, it was for tasty Andhra food because we had a bunch of students from Nellore, who were staying together. And it's like, one family was staying with them, and one of my friends' mom used to cook for all of them. And I realized, if I go to their house and teach their kids and his son and other students, I used to get good lunch. And I think that was the motivation factor for me those days, right? Almost 2 years, I think I've eaten off from their house, and I'm really thankful to aunt for actually feeding me during those days. But more than that, right? Whenever I see a student, right, every student I've met, I see a huge potential in that person, and a small nudge sometimes, the right direction, mentoring can put them in the right course and help them achieve something impossible. Most of the students don't even know what is possible, right? So I feel
Yeah.
a small help at the right time can actually, can be a big differentiator for the student. And what do we do actually? I mean, as mentors, all we have to do is ignite that passion and interest, nothing else. I mean, we are not going to go and teach them anything. They already know most of the stuff, they know where to go for information, but they need someone out there, patting on their back and say, don't worry, everything is going to be okay, right? Continue with your passion, continue with your interest, don't worry about what others say. Focus on what you are good at, what you want to do, you will be successful. I think that has made a huge difference to many students I've worked with. I'm very proud of many of my students who are doing amazingly well in different fields today.
Wow.
But specifically, if you ask me why am I interested in education, it's just the learning I get every time I interact with the student, right? I was one of those guys who thought I will never learn anything more after my engineering, right? 4 years of engineering is what I thought. That's it. 95, I thought I'll stop schooling. Till date, I'm learning. I'm doing one degree after the other, not to put degrees behind my name,
Yeah.
but I feel there's so much to learn, right? I last year, I think full year I've spent on design thinking. There are
Wow.
so much to learn on design thinking. I've done PG courses. I've done almost all the courses available out there. And this year I'm focusing on biomimicry right now. And there's so much to learn. It's completely a new field. So much to learn, so much to understand, so much to apply actually in a regular day-to-day job. So I feel there's no end to learning. There's no end to education. Specifically, if you look at startup founders, I see many startup founders who get lost in technology and do not understand the basic needs of the learner. See, education is something which everybody thinks I've got it, and they try to come out with solutions without really looking at the user or the basic needs of the learner. So they use technologies to see what's possible and really not what's needed. I think that's where the whole design thinking concept comes. So I
Correct.
do my bit to help them understand from a very different perspective. I keep
Mhm.
asking them, make technology an enabler. Don't position technology as the make or break of your solution. That's not going to work.
Mhm.
Technology has
Mhm.
to be something where the user doesn't even know that he's using it. I mean, that's the beauty of technology, right? As long as you do it, it works really well. So these days I
Wow.
work more closely with the founders to focus more on the user needs and
Mhm.
the needs of the learner, and try
Mhm.
to help them structure their product in the right way. So that's been my interest in education and the
Education.
startup
Wow.
companies in that world.
Wow, sir. And when you're talking about education, you, I think, graduated in 94, 95, and I graduated in 2012. And still, I would have felt what we have now would have helped us a lot more back then in 2012 with all our projects and everything. And why I say that is because for a long time, education has stayed the same. Throughout the world, if I may, throughout the world, it stayed the same, and very few changes are coming forward now that I can see very recently, because I'm seeing my nephews studying different concepts that I had never learned in third standard, second standard. What changes you see today are fascinates you? Like, how do you believe that the future of education is going to be with respect to what you're doing with Orinco as well?
So, two things, right? So education, I would not completely agree to the statement. Of education has not changed. It has changed. It has not remained the same in the last couple of years, but unfortunately, we have not adopted it at the pace we should have. Right? There are things out. I mean, still 10 years back, we knew the Finland education was one of the best. We knew Singapore education was one of the best. Russian education is very good in mathematics. Have we adopted it? No. We keep talking about it. There are a lot of articles which comes out of it, and we forget, and we keep doing what we do, right? Which sucks. But
Correct.
that's how the education system has been. So the people who have adopted this, who have learned from different systems and made it a part of today's system, actually have succeeded. I mean, there are many schools and colleges and universities, I can make example, who have actually done that, right? So when technology merged with education, the rate at which it started changing increased very much. So that's the transition what we are seeing right now, and that's a right transformation for the education. In the last 5 years, technology merging with education has actually speed up the whole process. So that's a beauty of technology, and thanks to technology and many founders like your company, many companies who have actually made it happen.
Correct.
See, if you really look at the future of education, it's about personalized learning. It's about focus on student choice and learning style, because every student is different. Now, can we build a system which is focusing on the learning style of the student? Can we look at a system which helps in offering what the student wants? Can we build a collaborative learning system? Can it be something which is completely outcome driven? Because today's education is all about skill based learning, which is primarily outcome driven, right? And how do we blend entertainment with learning through AR, VR? So edutainment is one thing which is picking up really well.
Yeah.
Skill based learning on the go, because nobody has time today to actually come and sit through 8 hours of classes. They
Yeah.
want to have bite learning and do a learning on the go. They want to learn through internships, the right learning through internships, and they want to focus on competencies more and more. Right? It's no longer just skill is not enough. You need to have a competency also. If you really want to sustain in this market, only having a particular skill will definitely get you a job right now, but you will be outdated when the next technology hits you. So you need to start focusing on competency building. When I say competency, there are different definitions of competencies, but when I use the word competency, it's a combination of a skill, a knowledge, behavior, and attitude. So if all of these four come together, then you can say that I'm competent in something, right? and
Wow.
and you cannot be static anymore. Whether you are an educational institute, a teacher, or a tech company, you need to build an adaptive learning platform. That is what is gaining prominence right now in the market, and I think that is the big change we are seeing in the industry, not just with edtech companies, but I see it across, whether it's a learner, a teacher, edtech companies, schools or colleges, multiple things. So in Orinco Academy also, our focus always has been on progressive education. We never looked at the numbers. We never wanted 1,000 kids out there, right? We were looking at the right set of kids who really believe in, parents and students who believe in progressive learning. So we impart the right life skills, which is really required for the students to face the world, 10 years down the line. If you do not teach students the skills which they will need 10 years down the line, then there is no meaning for a school. If you're teaching them what is needed today, then you're a training center, right? You're not a school. So as a school, you need to, build students. You need to help them nurture their innate talent, so that they can be creators. They can be someone with the right competences who can actually, make the world better. That's the focus of Orico, and that's what we've been doing in the last couple of years.
Wow, so that is quite a lot of insight, and you have so much of knowledge about this, and it shows. And I want to talk about what happened last year, since all over the world our lives have been disturbed, and I'm sure by this sudden pandemic, a lot of things have changed for children, for adults, for everyone. E-learning has become the destination for all students, and like you said, on the go learning has become something that has become very adaptive from, I could say, a lot from last year as well, because even people like me started going on to Udemy or other courses and started learning something just to kill time. And do you what changes, I'm sorry, sir. Do you think the future has arrived earlier than expected with the e-learning getting a sudden boom?
See, many crises have reshaped the future in the past also.
Right.
COVID 19 has definitely not reshaped the future, but definitely has made the future happen faster. Things accelerated more than they changed, right? COVID 19
Right.
has not changed anything, it just have accelerated stuff.
Right.
E-learning was happening, but COVID
Mm.
19 just accelerated the whole thing. Just put a pedal, put the pressure on the pedal right now. But at the same time, you have this famous black swan theory. You need to remember: are we trying to inappropriately rationalize after a fact with the benefit of hindsight? Right? That's what we need to remember. Trying to say that we already knew this was coming, and
Mm.
this is going to have a major effect, and trying to attach COVID-19 over there. Be, always think from both the angles. Philosophically, if you look at schooling, right, it's about experiential learning. It's about student voice. It's about embracing failure and not about standardized tests and always having a culture of one right answer. We
Mm.
always wanted to move away from the standardized test and go beyond standardized curriculum. We always wanted to bring in innovativeness, flexible curriculum, modern teaching techniques, etc., etc. That was not happening earlier. Now with this whole
Mm.
e-learning, we are able to make it possible. Right? That's the biggest advantage what I see with the whole e-learning. With online teaching, now there are some flip sides to the online teaching. Right? So if you really look at it, teachers are suddenly exposed to every student's homes, which never happened earlier.
Yeah.
um, Quality of teaching is being questioned because you have parents sitting next to the student and
Yeah.
looking at the classes. Every parent today has become an expert in education philosophy. They talk about pedagogy of learning and teaching. Whether they know it or not is a separate thing, but they've started intruding into the schooling system, good and bad. Okay, if you have the right skills, if you have the right intent, it's a fantastic thing. But
Mm.
half cooked knowledge and trying to
Mm.
get into something can be very, very dangerous for the schools. So the schools are also under a lot of pressure right now. I
Mm.
think e-learning, the biggest advantage of e-learning is analytics, right? We are able to today gather information and analytics which we never had it earlier. So if you really want to do a child-centric intervention program, today it's possible because of the analytics we have from the e-learning tools, right? That's one of the
Mm.
biggest advantages we have seen, and we have integrated into our system in Orinco Academy also. And the bigger challenge you are having with this whole e-learning is the typical metrics of a school quality has been shaken. Just remember 5 years back, if somebody asked you which is a good school, first thing which comes to your head is infrastructure. Oh, this school is 5 acres. This school has swimming pools. This school has fantastic building. That's the first thing. Second thing, you talk about teacher student ratio. Hey, this classroom has only 30 students. This classroom has only 20 students. Third
Right.
one, oh, it's been established from 1940. So that means it has to be the best school. Year of establishment. This school has these kind of facilities. This entrance test of the school is very tough. You have to stand 2 days in the line to get admission to the school. The syllabus, right? They have one of the best boards.
Mm.
They have a fantastic tie-up with the school. So if you have to put your child in a in a pre-KG also, the first question in your head is which school have they tied up with so that my child can go to first standard over there.
Mm.
Uh, nobody cared about teachers. I mean, if you really honestly think about it, right? Nobody cared about the
Correct.
teachers. Everything has been shaken today. Nobody cares about infrastructure. Nobody cares about year of establishment. Nobody cares about facilities. Nobody cares about admission toughness right now. So the whole
Right.
metrics has changed thanks to e-learning, and I think it was needed. Right? I mean, unless you offer the right quality teaching, the right platform to the students, and unless you are a student centric platform today, no school can succeed in future. So that's one of the biggest changes what I've seen with e-learning, and I think the future definitely has arrived as
Yeah.
expected, and I think it's going to be a fantastic ride for the parents and the students in the next 10 years.
That's amazing. So thank you so much for that. You have a massive background in technology, and I can see that when you're talking as well. Your talks have been exceptional, like I mentioned in the beginning, and we think you are the right person to answer this question. What is your take on children learning to code early?
See, coding today is very important to learn because I feel a computer programming teaches children to experiment and gives them a confidence to be creative. That's the definition of coding for me. It's not about language, it's not about jobs, it's not about skills. It actually gives the students the confidence, and their creativity juices are opened up because of coding. They get a chance to design something of their own. They get instantaneous feedback on their work, and they get excited and get more engaged. That's the whole concept of coding, right? And biggest thing I have seen in coding, when we introduced coding to our kids, third standard kids, fourth standard kids are doing coding right now, and it really gives a voice for the two segments which was never addressed earlier. For me, it is, it gives a voice to introverts, it gives a voice to underprivileged kids. Let me explain this, right? Every student is unique, we all know this. A traditional system tends to pick the extroverts well, but introverts usually get lost in the system because they're a little bit shy to reach out, talk
Correct.
to teachers, come out in the classrooms. Coding has given a wonderful platform for these introverts to express themselves and be creative and solve problems like never before. Never happened earlier. Same is true with the kids with the tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India. Coding has democratized learning. I mean, look at the best coding guys we have in our own companies today, right? It is actually from a remote village. And I mean, in Synopsis, we have engineers from all across India. And it's amazing to see the coding skills these people have, though they are from the tier 2, tier 3 cities. I think the last 4 5 years actually has enabled that. So that's the beauty of coding, right? It has completely democratized learning. I think that's something which was very, very important.
Right.
If you ask me an analogy, right? So, what English as a language did to the learning community, coding has done the same today. See, what's the whole concept of language? Why do you
Right.
teach child a language? It helps the child communicate and teaches logical thinking, right? Whenever you learn a language, you are able to communicate with people. You are able to communicate with people around you. Language also strengthens your verbal and written skills. And that's the reason why we expose children to different languages at very early age.
That's
Now,
correct.
coding has a language of its own. Now, when you learn English, when you learn Spanish, when you learn this one, you're interacting with people around you. But today, what are you interacting with? You're actually interacting with things. You're interacting with technology around you. And the only platform or a language which you can use with technology around you is coding. So if you look at coding like that, I think it makes it much easier, right? It is something, a language which you are learning to interact with things around you or technology around you. You take your child to China, you start teaching your child Mandarin so that he or she can start communicating with other child. The same should be true with learning coding as well, because you want to communicate with technology around you, and the only way to communicate around technology around you is coding. So that's why coding is important. It's definitely not about learning C++ or learning any programming language today will help you get a job tomorrow. That's a very wrong statement to make. That's a
Correct.
very wrong positioning to make also. But I do understand the market. Sometimes most of the startups use that route to do it, but for me, it's more a language. I think that's why it's more important to ensure everybody, not just students, but also professionals who might not have coding done in their life, to start looking at
Yeah.
learning coding.
So do you think, sir, more and more professions will need to learn this? Doctors or anybody will need to have at least a little bit of knowledge in coding in the future?
Definitely. First of all, we need to remove the misconception that coding is for engineers or specifically
Yes.
for software engineers, right? Coding is for everyone. Like I said, it's like learning a language to communicate with others and interact with
Mhm.
things around you. Whether you are a doctor, whether you are a lawyer, whether you are a HR personnel today, you will interact with things around you, and the things around you is technology. So as I told you, it's very very important to learn coding. Now,
Correct.
coding is an essential skill in future because it's one of the important parts of the digital transformation.
Mhm.
Every industry is going through a digital transformation right now, and coding becomes an essential skill because of that, right? Whether it's a problem statement, a design concept, or a solution, coding can represent all this in a very nice way, right? It's not just the technology sector which needs coding. Every other sector also needs coding, whether it's in health, whether it's finance, whether it's building infrastructure, retail, etc. Everything requires coding.
Mhm.
Specifically, if you really look at the children, coding, one of the biggest advantages of coding also is, mathematics has always been a mystery for me. I loved mathematics, but a lot of people don't, like mathematics. They think it's not fun to learn. The biggest advantage with coding is actually it makes mathematics fun to learn.
Mhm.
The choice is simple, right? Do you want to be a calculator or a mathematical thinker? If you want to be a calculator, then the traditional maths teaching works perfectly fine because you're just remembering things. The
Mhm.
idea is not to remember things. The idea is to make you solve problems. And if you have to do that, coding helps. So whether you're a student, whether
Mhm.
you are a professional with the 25 years of experience, I think coding is very important skill to have. And today, learning coding is not difficult. I mean, you can actually start coding with 1 week of classes on any of the platforms, right? Learning platforms which you have out there. So that's the
That's
beauty of
correct.
coding. So that's a good
Coding.
one you have.
So the when we're talking about education and when you spoke about parents as well who are being a little bit of intrusive, there are a lot of things with regards to education that are confusing to parents right now. Not everybody has the same mindset. Not everybody thinks the same way. And as a parent yourself, what advice would you give the parents at this stage of the children's education?
See, the biggest challenge you have as a parent today is to choose between traditional learning and progressive learning. When do you do the shift or how do you do the blend? I think that's the biggest challenge we have. Everybody understands the problem with today's education system, but they have a fear. So they fall into the same trap when it comes to their own children. How many parents 10 years back or today say the same thing? Hobbies, sports, everything is fine till ninth. Now we are in 10th standard. Next 3 years, everything is going to stop. You're going to focus on studies. This is
Yeah.
a statement which has never changed. And until you change this, nothing is going to happen, right? Because you know the problem, but you don't want to accept it. And thanks to NEP, right, the National Education
Yeah.
Policy, which is being implemented, will definitely help parents make this decision. We are in a transition currently, so it will take some years before the problem statement completely goes away. But right now, I think we are going in the right direction. Really big thanks to the think tank who made NEP possible in India. Karnataka is one of the first state to adopt it, and we all have to work together to implement NEP effectively across all the schools and colleges. In
Correct.
this transition phase, whether you are in a traditional schooling system or in a progressive schooling, after school programs are the best bet to get the required skill for your words. And I think there are many tech companies, there are many companies which can offer you that help. I personally feel until the whole education system changes, which will, right, a couple of years, in this transition phase, the best thing to do is, combine your traditional education system, because you can't completely change the whole system in
That's
2 years or
correct.
3 years. So it's going to take some time. So until then, after school programs are the best bet, and amazing programs are available today to upskill the child and give the child the right skills which will be required for future.
Mhm. And do you think parents being paranoid is okay right now because of the shift of change and everything? But if they try to, try themselves and try to imbibe into the situation, is it okay?
See, they should not put their experiences and define the child's future. The day
Correct.
you do it, you lost the game, right?
Yeah.
The I was in a very different situation. My parents were in a different situation. So you need to understand that your child is in a completely different environment. So what worked for you, what didn't work for you, will not
Mm,
work for your child. So
mm,
why do you say that? this is paranoia is there. You don't have to. You just have to embrace it. You need to look forward, and things are perfectly fine. Our parents also had the same tension when they thought about our future. It's very fair as a parent to have the same tension for our kids, but I think they are in a better place than where we were. See, we are in a better place compared to our parents. Our kids are actually in a much better place compared to us. So I
Compared
think
to us, yes.
this will go on without any challenges.
Awesome. Lastly, I would like to know if you would like to share some any tips on parenting which you learned from your experiences with your children.
So again, I'm not an expert in parenting, but I'll
Yeah.
share you my personal story. I have two boys,
Hmm.
Shikhar and Shishir. Shikhar actually comes from a typical CBSE school background.
Hmm.
10 CGPA in till 10th.
Wow.
Perfectly, balanced student. He had all his hobbies, sports, everything, and then he wanted to, do his engineering. And I exposed
Hmm.
him to multiple areas, and then he chose engineering. He said, "This is what I want to do." So 11th and 12th was a typical experience like anybody else. He had to join the JE programs, IIT programs, and make sure that he gets the right skills and problem
Hmm.
solving abilities to do it. And after 12th, he got fairly good marks, and he joined Taiwan, right? Chaotong University in Taiwan, computer
Okay.
science. And he went there, and his focus was very clear. He wanted to be a computer science engineer with major in computers and minor in psychology. Now, and he wanted to be a behavioral scientist. I think that was a
Wow.
path he chose. After one
Hmm.
year, he comes back and says, "I'm not interested in computer science engineering. I want to do major in psychology, and I don't want to do programming at all." And it was a shocker. So I had to wear both hats. I had to wear a hat as a parent. I had to wear as a parent as educationalist, because I've dealt with many such students. And I gave him time. I asked him to think through the whole thing, and I told, "I'll support you irrespective, whatever is the decision he makes." And eventually, after I think 3 months, he tried, and he came back and said, "No, I'm not interested. I want to do psychology only." So after 2 years, he came back to India, and of course, there are very few colleges which is very good in liberal arts. Ashoka
Correct.
University and Flame University in Pune are one of the best in India. So he got into Flame, and he finished 1 year now. He's completely shifted his career to psychology. He's doing a major in psychology right
Wow.
now. So, as long as the parents are open, and I think the kids will find their way. And the challenge is, are you ready to support it? I think that's the most important thing. So, every student is unique. Understanding them and giving them the right platform is very important. So, as long as you're able to do that, I think we all will be successful parents. And I can give you one quick story, my friend's story. He came to me and said, we live in this villas, and and my kid is in sixth standard, and I want to, make her understand the value of money, value of everything she has, because she thinks she's got everything easily, so she doesn't value anything. I didn't agree to it, but I said, okay, I mean, let's talk to the child and see what happens. I talked to
Hmm.
her, very nice girl. So then I told him, what do you want to do? He said, I want her to come to one of your classes so that she can experience the whole NGO feeling and see the difference. So we took her to the class. This is in Malvali, which is around 100 kilometers from Bangalore.
Hmm.
And she spent 1 hour with the kids. So we
Hmm.
have around 120 kids. None of the kids wear their shoes or chappal inside the classroom there.
Correct.
She didn't know that, so she came in, and all the children were walking around without chappals. So, and she has an iPhone, right? At sixth standard, she has an iPhone, and she was clicking photos. So we were all looking at her. We didn't realize what she was doing. She comes home. She goes to Printo herself. She takes a photo of one of the kids with bare foot, and puts a one liner saying, "Don't you think the child deserves her shoes?" And she raised 26,000 or 27,000 rupees in the apartment, and donated to me and told me, "Uncle, can you please help me buy shoes and this one for your kids?" And I told her, "Dad, that's the difference between our generation and this generation. We empathize, but we don't take action. These kids today not only empathize, actually they take actions. And if you talk about value system, it's much better is what I feel than what we have. So it's a question of the exposure, the opportunities the kids have is much higher than what we had. So I think they will be in a better place than what we can think. So as parents, we just have to support them. We don't have to do anything else. We just have to support them. I think they will turn out to be really well. And one
Wow.
last thing I want to tell Code Vidya also. Remember, technology can be a differentiator, but always remember to humanize education. Never try to make
Absolutely.
it a robotic education, right? As long as you balance these two things, I think we have a wonderful future for the kids, for the technology, for the companies, for everybody in the ecosystem.
Correct, sir. Wow. So thank you so much for talking with me. I feel so enlightened, and thank you so much for sharing stories about all these things. And I hope. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, again for speaking with me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you. Bye
And
bye.
yeah,
You
just
had
a
a
second.
question?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
No, I did not have a question. I just wanted to say thank you for speaking with me. And Kodvita is really, really honored to have you speaking on our podcast.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. See you.
Okay, sir. I'll stop the recording.